When you name yourself bitter, Mara, you become magnetic for Mara. Naomi hears at some point, the bread is back in Bethlehem, the famine is over, God has answered the prayers of his people. You can leave Moab, this horrible place, because the bread is back. There are seasons in your life where you come into a reality that what you went through is leaving you, but Ruth still had to make a decision once she got to Bethlehem to go into the fields. When you put your mind on a mission to find misery, the devil will help you look. Why would you dig through a dumpster for crumbs when there is treasure in your field? Favor is in the field. Ruth's responsibility positioned her for God's favor. We pray for stuff and don't pick through anything. But the one who seeks finds. He knows you're broken under there. He knows you're impotent under there. He knows you're disappointed under there. He knows you're frustrated. He's looking for you. And guess what? The one who seeks finds.
My goodness.
What an incredible word.
Listen, I know we all say this all the time, but when I tell you that sermon was for me, I'm pretty sure Pastor was preaching that just for me. I maybe it was for you too. I don't know. Let us know in the chat.
Let us know your
But that sermon spoke to me in so many ways. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Man, I have something to say about that because I was just talking to somebody beforehand. We were grabbing coffee. He's one of the guys who helps run this behind the scenes. And he was like, I feel like, same exact thing. And I know a lot of people say that, but I feel that ties so much even into the message of like, but you're looking for this promise or this thing that God is gonna speak to you because you're looking for that. You're like, God, I know you have something for me. And so you're looking for it. And when it comes up, you're like, that's mine. That's mine. I'm grabbing a hold of that. And that's what it feels like every week when you're like, man, God, you are speaking to me, but you're digging. Right. You're searching for the thing. So anyway, before y'all joined us, everybody here was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this person. Oh man, I can't wait. So Stephanie said it multiple times. So Stephanie, what was like the thing that you're like, man, this is mine. This is for me.
Okay, so when he said, her grief was no longer concealable. She couldn't hide it anymore. I thought about seasons of my life where I couldn't hide grief anymore. And it really, I was like, why is that so uncomfortable for me? And it's because of pride. It's like, I don't want people to see me like that. I don't want people to see that I'm not as strong as I come across or that something hurt me. I don't want them to know they hurt me. So then he asked right after that, have you rejected anything that you associate with pain? And I thought about what I've rejected because he also mentioned in that clip that you pray for things, but you don't search through it. Just because it comes to you in a way that you didn't ask for it doesn't mean it's not there. So have I rejected things? And what have I rejected? And I thought, oh my gosh, I have rejected people. I have rejected situations. I've rejected my own emotions. Like I'm angry, right? Or I'm sad. I'm sad, but I don't want you to know I'm sad. So instead, what's the acceptable emotion? The way that I was raised or the way that and it's like, no, I'd rather be mad because then at least you still think I'm strong. And it's like all of these things that you have to process in grief in order to like get past it so that you can get to a place of grieving and gleaning at the same time. It's hard, but I think for me, it just tied back to a gut check on pride. Am I prideful? Am I willing to lay it down in order to truly get in and dig and find what the Lord has for me? And if I can't do it for myself, I have to do it for my legacy. I have to do it for my kids so they don't have to sift through the same stuff that I'm sifting through. So for me, this sermon hurt. Like it hurt my feelings. I was like,
did some surgery on you.
I'm
telling you.
It cut deep, huh? I love that stuff.
Stephanie, when you were talking about that pride part, I think for me, Pastor didn't say this, but I wrote it down in my notes, but gleaning takes humility. And when you glean, and the way Pastor explained it, when you have to pick and you have to search, you're admitting that you don't have everything you need on your own.
My goodness.
And for me, I know that I haven't gleaned in the past because I'm afraid to admit that I actually don't have all the answers. And it kind of convicted me over the last few weeks, like, I need this and I need that. I'm not getting what I need. And it's like, are you actually doing what you need to do to glean? And
Right.
are you going to humble yourself?
Yeah.
So humility is a word that God was speaking, to me throughout the sermon.
That's awesome.
So what is that, Claude, when I hear you say that, I'm like, that's great.
Yep.
Humility. What does like that actually look like in your life when you're like, I'm not doing the thing. So what are you actually doing then?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times for people, like, you hear this and you're like, but like, what do I actually need to do this week
Yeah.
to like get to that
That's
place
good.
where I
Yeah.
can, like, is there actual work to do?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's probably a practical step that you can take towards humility.
Sure.
For me, it's admitting that I need help. So it's going to somebody and saying, hey, I actually can't do this on my own, and I'm a little nervous and afraid to admit it, but can you help me? So I wonder what action steps you might have in the chat that are gonna help you glean and also admit that you don't have it all together, what steps you can take towards humility.
Yeah. Another thing too is, and he hinted at this, and we just exercise this, but like gratitude practice. I actually have like a gratitude journal, and I crossed out gratitude and put gleaning journal because I just want to remember
That's good.
putting that to practice.
Yeah.
And the word was just so powerful. And I think that's just something we could all find 5 minutes
Yeah.
to go and find something good,
Yeah.
seek something good out in our life. Because even in the sermon, like, how did he say it? He was like, we think God's going to bless me and I'm going to feel better. Like, that's how we know we're blessed. But like, God can bless you even at a horrible time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Your biggest blessing.
you can be in an awful season.
Yes.
And he can still bless you, but are you looking for the blessing? It goes back to like what you were talking about,
Right.
Steph.
Yeah.
Where it's like, just because I don't feel blessed doesn't mean I'm not. I'm not taking the time
Exactly.
to identify it in my life. The other like just super unique thing was, I love this because he was talking about Ruth, and for her to even have the opportunity to glean means she had to meet certain qualifications according to Leviticus, right? So she had to be destitute, she had to be a widow, she had to be a foreigner, and then he said, but she was all three.
She had met all three.
And I'm like, man, like the things that put her in what would seemingly outwardly be an awful position
Yeah.
is actually what positioned her
That's good.
for one of the biggest blessings of her life and her family's life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what even am I taking for granted?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, man, like this insecurity or this or that. And I'm like, but even through that, am I just being faithful?
Yeah.
Doing what God's put in front of me to do.
Yeah.
Because like that's the position and the posture I feel like he can bless us the most in. And then on top of that, is he already blessing me and I'm just not taking the time to look around
Yeah.
and identify it? I
Yeah.
was so convicted whenever I like walked out of the sermon.
Yep.
I did that to my journal and I was like, man, I had a rough week last week. I was like, the timing of it couldn't have been like better because I told you guys already about my father-in-law. There were all these other things that to me were just the end of the world that happened last week. And then all of a sudden, I'm like sitting here like, name these good things, name them. And I'm like, wow. And I like the journal prompts 3, and then I got to 5, and then 6.
Okay.
And I'm at 10, and I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Right?
I was just looking for all of the bad things, but God has been so good and gracious.
Yeah.
And I really let these circumstances, and I'm not even gonna call them silly, because some of them really are serious and,
course, yeah.
and substantial, but even through that, God had been working. And I was just too blind to see it, but it was there all along.
Yeah. That's right.
So-
So good.
That resounds so deeply with me because there have been times where I look at my fields and I'm like, I'm gonna light this on fire. Lord, I know what happens after a fire or finding fire. Like I'm ready to get rid of it. And then you look at what you actually do have. And it's like, oh my goodness, the things that I think disqualify me, the things that I'm embarrassed by, the seasons of my life that have been like really difficult that I don't want people to see, those are the things that God uses to equip me to help other people once I'm on the other side of them, or even, even sometimes right in the middle of it. And it's like, that's not, Pastor always says it's not for you. Like the blessing is for someone else. And so like if you're in the middle of one of those seasons where you're like, man, there's nothing, like there is absolutely nothing good going on in my life right now. This disqualifies me from moving forward in 4 different areas. I have no margin in my mind. Like that's the time and those are the seasons and those are the things that God's gonna use to either catapult you to the next level or help somebody else to get through it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the sermon that Pastor preached a couple weeks ago, and he talked about, you're like, burn the whole field, but then you're burning down Rachel and Leah.
That's right.
We forget that it comes with both.
It's
Yes.
both.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
both.
Yes.
And something I thought about, gleaning as a practice. So when we talk about gratitude journal, and Pastor talked about a gratitude journal, I looked up the definition of gleaning, and it said something about slowly and surely and gradually over time. And like you said, I'm just gonna start with one, and oh, God's doing this and God's doing that. It's like gleaning is a practice that you have to actually
That's
do every single day,
Yes.
because you may not wake up
Yes.
today and like, I'm so thankful for all the things that God is doing, but you have one thing that you can be thankful for.
That's right.
And as you make this a habit and a practice, you're like, wow, God, there's more in my field than I thought there
Well,
was.
it is a perspective shift. So first thing is, if you've just joined us in the past like couple minutes and like, what the heck is this? What are you all talking about? We just take some time on Wednesday morning, at least here in the States, Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., and talk about the message that we were able to be a part of. Hopefully you've watched this past weekend. If you missed it, go on YouTube and catch it. But I love what you were saying, Claude, because I think about that in the same way I think about how your eyes need to adjust when you walk into a room. If you've been outside in a really bright room and then you walk into a dark room, or one that I was thinking immediately when you were talking about the more you do it, the more you see it, is, have you ever been outside on a really dark night and you look up at the sky and you only see like a couple stars?
Right.
But as your eyes begin to adjust
That's good, Chad.
more and more, and before you know it, like the sky is full of stars,
Yeah.
but you only saw 2 or 3
on.
at first,
My
but it's
goodness.
because you're allowing your eyes to readjust to the thing that you're looking at and that you want to see.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's the whole thing. You're gonna keep staring because like, no, I know there's more up there. I wanna see things I hadn't seen before. So you keep looking and you keep looking and you keep looking, and they start to show up. And it's just the same way with your life.
Yeah.
You've gotta let your eyes and your attitude and your body adjust to start looking for the things that you're not used to looking for.
Yeah.
You're looking for the wrong things. And that's what's so powerful about this. You really will, as you make this a practice in your life. By the way, I'm speaking to me first. I'm not saying that I see all the stars in the sky right now. I am looking for the wrong things at the wrong times a lot, where I'm like, oh man, that makes me so mad. I'm very, very similar, Stephanie. I'm like, I like to be bothered by things, and so I'm like, look, that's the thing that making me mad today. Yep, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. Now I got something to like.
Yeah.
And
You know,
you can be right.
like, exactly.
Right.
And you can be accurate.
Exactly.
Like Pastor said, the other person's ignorant. The other perspective
That's
is
right.
ignorant. I'm
That's
accurate.
right.
But it prevents you from seeing things
Good.
the right
Who
way.
seeks finds. You
That's
gotta
it.
find what you're
That's
looking
it.
for.
I will attune my eyes to the things that will make me frustrated in the day and start looking for those things. And once I find it, I'm like, yep, there it was. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be some. Today was too good.
Yeah.
Today was too good to not have something. But I need to flip that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And start saying, no, God, there's so much to be thankful for. What I'm going through. How do I start to see that? How do those stars start to fill up my eyes a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Pastor used the example of, I think it was Graham or somebody in their family at the dinner table who was on social media, and they were scrolling and they started complaining about the things that they scroll to. And I was so convicting to me, because how many times have I complained about situations I placed myself in?
Yeah.
And it's like, I went looking for that. So even in the morning, like a small practice, I'm not perfect. I'm trying not to hop on social media in the morning, because I notice that it affects my entire day. So what could I do to practice gleaning positive things in the morning, like keeping a gratitude journal? So this message was so good. It was very like, it prompted me to be practical and to implement it right away. It's one thing that I can do today to glean and to be grateful for the things that God's placed in my life.
You know, it also empowered, because, you hear about, we do weddings, like we do weddings, and it's like, oh, love is a choice, joy is a choice, and you hear that all the time, and it's accurate.
Yeah.
But I had never heard until Pastor preached this Sunday, bitterness is a choice.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, so I have choices to make, more choices than I realized throughout my day.
Good.
And I get to decide what I'm gonna feel, what I'm gonna act out of every single day. And I just didn't realize, I felt like I was almost like a victim to bitterness, or a victim to anger, or a victim to all these different things that will just throw your whole day off. And just hearing him say, it is a choice.
Yep.
That's right.
He's right, it is a choice. And we get to decide, we get to choose for ourselves what's gonna guide our steps through the day. We don't have to let that anger or that bitterness or that ignorant statement or, you know, whatever it is, take control of our day and our life. We have so much more power within us that God has given us to decide for ourselves and take more power over our destiny. And it just starts with a choice. Whenever you feel that thing rising up in you, are you willing to just sit there and be like, well, what am I gonna decide? Am I gonna decide to let this rule in my life? Or am I gonna make a better decision in this moment? Let it go and move on, because I actually have a purpose today that I have to fulfill. And we don't do that enough.
Do you remember years ago, Pastor preached a sermon on trajectory? And he said it's tiny decisions that move the entire trajectory. One little decision, it's like a degree of, I don't know, I'm not really good at math, but.
No, please explain.
No thanks. But little decisions direct your entire trajectory.
A brilliant sermon that he preached on that was Momentum of a Decision.
I think that might
go
be.
back and find that one.
Yeah, that might be what it's from.
It's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking about old sermons too, because there's one from, I don't remember how long ago, but you were, Britt, but when you were around when Pastor did Mood Swingers. And I believe one of the sermons is where he talked about, I don't know if this is what it's called, but he talked about my joy is my job. And how it really becomes my decision on my personal. I think, and that phrase runs through my mind all the time. Like, my joy is my job. Like, I can't rely on other people or other factors. God knows, not social media, for joy in my life. It's my job. It's my job to fix my focus on those things. So even saying that, you know, you might have just started joining us on Sundays for the message. Well, did you know that you can go back and catch a lot of messages from years and years past through the past few years? And if you haven't, it's just a great opportunity to go back and say, you know what, God, what more do you want to speak to me? What more is there available? And on top of that, so those are available on YouTube. And then on top of that, we really hope and pray that you're not keeping these messages to yourself. As much as they're certainly for you, what we really believe is we want to see how God can work through you. And one of those ways is just by maybe just sending a text to somebody and say, hey, this message spoke to me. Maybe God will speak to you through it too. We do that a lot, and we encourage that a lot, because again, what God is doing in your life is certainly meant for you, but not only you.
Come on.
It's meant for other people too. And so make sure that you're not keeping what God is doing in your life to yourself. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with some people who can encourage you and support you in your faith. And maybe that's what this morning is. Maybe that's what CoffeeFam is for you. But there are still a lot of other ways that you can do that. And as we wrap up here today, we just have a couple more minutes, but I think really practically, we do talk about this a lot, but there are a couple very, very practical ways that you can surround yourself with people that will help you start seeing things that you don't see. And one of those ways, Britt,
is joining an e-group.
That's it.
I know we say this a lot, but I'm so serious. It is the easiest way to practically dive into. I know we do this here, but when you get yourself around a group of people and you can bring your specific circumstances to that group of people and have them help you sift through and make decisions, and you're all in alignment because you're hearing the word of God together, you're talking about it, it really can change your life. And I'm speaking personally, it's changed my life. I've been in e-group for over 10 years now, and I just can't imagine any other way to do life than with like-minded people that can help me through circumstances.
That's right.
So if you're looking for a group of people, it's super simple. Just go to elevationchurch.cc. You're gonna click join a group, and you can get connected there. Or maybe you've been in a group for a while and you're like, you know what, I wanna create this environment for other people. You can also step up to lead a group, and we'd love to have you as a leader, creating that space for other people to experience God, to be able to grow in their faith, and for you to be a part of their journey. So that's one of the most practical ways, and it's, again, one of the most impactful ways that I've experienced in our church.
That's great.
So let's hit two more to just represent everybody who's here. Tell them about watch parties, because again, e-groups are amazing.
Yes.
Talk about the message, but really a community surrounding yourself on a Sunday together.
Yeah.
Tell them about that.
Yeah, so we have 204 watch parties all across America and the world. You can go to elevationchurch.online/map, put in your zip code, and find a watch party near you.
That's awesome.
What is a watch party? It is a Sunday morning expression of worship. It's not watching the sermons alone. It's being a part of a community of people who physically live near you. Watch parties are starting to have regional e-groups. So you're literally in community with other believers who are a part of our church. You're watching the sermons together, you're worshiping together, you're serving together throughout the week. A lot of our watch parties have outreach events that they do on a more regular basis now. And so if you're nervous about it, you're not sure, sign up for one anyway. Sign up and then talk to, seriously, ask the leader to Zoom with you ahead of time. And they'll even show you the space that you're gonna meet in and that type of thing. It'll take down whatever inhibitions, and you'll see that they are wonderful leaders. It's just really, it's an exciting opportunity to do church in a different way, but also in like the original way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Book of Acts church.
It's not so different. It's you come full circle.
Right.
And then last but certainly not least, I don't know if you knew this, but we do have people meeting in buildings. I get emails every week, y'all, that's like, hey, are you guys open? Like, well, yeah, I mean, who do you think the people are in the room? I don't know where all these people came from on Sunday. But no offense, if you're wondering if we're open, we're not just open here at Ballantine.
Buildings
we have
are open.
20 locations.
That's right.
And Claude oversees one of them.
Yeah.
So tell them about our locations.
Yeah,
Claude.
so if you're near a physical location or not sure if you're near a physical location, go to elevationchurch.org/locations. Get into a community of people like you were saying. Man, there's just something energetic in the room. When you get into a room, faith-filled people, the presence of God is there. The Bible says that where 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is also. But to be able to hear the word of God, express yourself in worship and honor God, but then also find out ways you can connect through serving and through groups and through all the different things. But if you're near a building, get there, because God wants to do something through you amongst his people. So I would encourage you, get to church when you can.
That's right. So that's a lot. So there's e-groups, there's watch parties, there's joining us on Sundays at a physical location. Obviously, many people are unable to do that, so they join us online because we don't have a physical location near you. But we love you as a part of the family here. I saw some lady that just said, I lead a middle school e-group every Wednesday. Awesome. God bless you. Becky Russell. Thank you for leading and helping those middle schoolers to see Jesus and keep him at the center of their lives. Let's send Becky a CoffeeFam mug.
Yeah,
that might be the first mug today.
On Facebook. I know, we didn't get a chance to send many because we spent our time talking about the message. Okay, so here's what we need you to do. Share the message with somebody. Let somebody know about what God spoke to you. Keep applying this stuff throughout the week. This message is only as good as something that you're doing with it. If you're just hearing it and not doing anything with it, it's pointless. Don't listen.
You will find.
And so thank you for being a part of the family. Thank you for joining us each and every week. We love you all so much. We can't wait to continue to see how God works in and through you. There's a lot going on here at Elevation, a lot for you to be a part of. All of the information is available on the website. You can just find and be more a part. But we love you.
Love you.
We'll see you guys soon. This weekend, make sure that you join us. Bye-bye all.
Peace.